Hello and welcome to NTD News. I'm Evelyn Lee. Here are today's top stories. House Republicans trying to censure President Biden over the border crisis. They say he's failed to do his job to enforce border security and immigration laws. House Republicans are pushing back against the narrative that Republicans don't care about the climate. A large group is now working to bring clean energy solutions to the table, using America's free market rather than socialist policies. Members of the Congress confront senior military leaders about teaching critical race theory to service members. Their responses contradict each other. The president of the largest healthcare union in the U.S. says they'll fight against mandatory vaccines for healthcare workers. He says workers have the right to make their own decisions about their health. The Supreme Court rules in favor of a high school cheerleader who was temporarily banned from her school's cheerleading squad over a social media post. Hundreds of fire and rescue workers are searching through tons of rubble after a 12-story oceanfront residential building partially collapsed in southern Florida.
It's hard to imagine how this could happen. I've lived in Miami Beach. I was born here, and buildings just don't fall down. Never. I mean, it's the most shocking thing that I think we've seen ever. It looks like an earthquake.
At least one person is dead and 51 are still unaccounted for. A fire official said 35 people were rescued from the buildings in Surfside, Florida, just north of Miami Beach. 2 were pulled from the rubble as response teams used trained dogs in their search for survivors. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis says he plans to go to the scene. The building was constructed in 1981 and had more than 130 units. About 80 of them were occupied. It's not clear how many people were inside when the building pulled away at 2 a.m. Rescue operations are currently on pause because of a thunderstorm. The Border Patrol chief who supported Trump's wall is stepping down. It comes as Republican lawmakers try to censure President Biden for failing to enforce immigration laws. NTD's Jessica Beatty reports.
U.S. Border Patrol Chief Rodney Scott is stepping down after less than 2 years. He supported former President Trump's border wall. AP reports he was forced out. It cited an anonymous source saying he was given 60 days to decide whether to retire or be reassigned. His deputy, Raul Ortiz, is expected to serve as interim chief. And a group of House Republicans introduced a resolution Wednesday to censure President Biden over the border crisis.
The numbers don't lie. Biden's border crisis is a humanitarian crisis. And it all started when the Biden regime began rolling back President Trump's firm and effective border policies.
The Constitution requires presidents to execute the law, but the group says when it comes to the border, Biden has abandoned his duty. The U.S. border has seen a spike in illegal immigration in recent months. Border Patrol apprehended 180,000 illegal aliens in May, the highest total in 21 years. Another new resolution affirms the power states have to defend their own borders.
They have the sovereign powers articulated in the Constitution, inherent rights to defend their borders and their people, enforce the law, do the job the federal government has failed to do.
Earlier this week, the administration increased the number of illegal aliens eligible to be processed in the United States. Migrants who had their cases terminated or were removed for not being present at their immigration hearings now have another chance to live in the U.S. Biden officials have defended his border policies, claiming they're more humane. We reached out to the White House for comment, but didn't hear back right away. And Texas Border Patrol agents tried to dissuade people Wednesday from crossing the border illegally.
In West Texas and southern New Mexico, we have already experienced at least 10 days of triple-digit heat. Despite all of the dangers, migrant smugglers continue to place profit over the safety and welfare of the people they smuggle.
She called on migrants to avoid the dangerous trek across the Cristo Rey Mountains, where several have recently been found dead due to extreme temperatures. Vice President Kamala Harris plans to visit the U.S.-Mexico border on Friday for the first time since taking a lead role in immigration issues. Jessica Beatty, NTD News.
Today is shaping up to be a big day in D.C. for President Joe Biden's agenda. On the table, infrastructure and policing legislation. They're 2 of his major bipartisan priorities, and the next 24 hours could be crucial.
deal-making in D.C., with infrastructure and policing front and center.
The divisions of the moment shouldn't stop us from doing the right thing for the future.
But the division remains, and the countdown is on. The Senate is getting ready to start a 2-week recess. With infrastructure, we're talking improvement to roads, bridges, water systems, technology, climate-related measures, manufacturing, research and development, and the caregiving economy, and how to pay for it all. But senators on both sides of the aisle say there's an agreement on a bipartisan deal. And today at the White House, they're expected to talk about it with the president. But will it be enough? Depends on who you ask.
My sense is that that deal right now has 20 votes, not 60 votes. We're going to have to take a deep dive into the agreement.
Republicans and Democrats have come together along with the White House, and we've agreed on a framework.
Same goes for police reform, but that hasn't been easy either, with debate over the standard for charging police officers with crimes and qualified immunity, so police officers can be sued in civil court. A lead senator on the negotiations says today may be a make or break day. All told, it could be a make or break day for Biden.
A new conservative climate caucus says it aims to bring free market solutions to the debate on tackling climate change. They say it's possible to be good stewards of the earth and help the American economy at the same time. They plan to stimulate the free market to fight back against socialist policies and reduce emissions. And they say the U.S. has been making breakthroughs in climate solutions this way for decades. NTD's Melina Weisskopf has more from Capitol Hill.
A group of around 50 Republicans are joining together, launching a new conservative climate caucus. They're working on clean climate solutions, but without relying on federal government mandates and without relying on socialist policies.
The Green New Deal is asking corporations to destroy jobs, destroy the economy, and it doesn't even work. I'm not here because of incentives or regulations. I'm here because I care deeply about the earth and want to do the right thing. And I think appealing to people's sense of what's right is far more powerful than any government regulation.
And why does he say a strong-armed government approach doesn't work? One reason is because it's a global issue, not just a U.S. issue. The U.S. emits around 15% of the greenhouse gas emissions. The remaining 85% is emitted by the rest of the world.
There's a domestic issue here, but if the United States is regulating and we're removing all of our emissions, we go to net zero today. What are we going to do about the rest of the world?
One solution they propose is to leverage America's free market system to encourage innovative solutions and products to export these achievements to the rest of the world.
So in the United States, we've learned by doing with things like natural gas and wind power and solar energy. We've innovated on those technologies with our national laboratories. We've used incentives like tax incentives to get those deployed into the markets.
And energy programs under the Trump administration encourage these technological innovations for clean energy solutions.
The director of the International Energy Agency came out and said that what we've done with energy emissions reductions is the most historic reductions in world history.
But they say the U.S. needs to do better at protecting these developments from intellectual property theft.
Chinese investors, Chinese utilities, Chinese companies, and they leverage all of that great early research and intellectual property which we've developed, and now suddenly it's Chinese intellectual property, it's being developed and built in China, they're reaping the benefits, all because we didn't support those technologies all the way through their early life cycle. And
this is why we need U.S. innovation, because China, Russia, India will continue to put out large amounts of carbon and greenhouse gas emissions.
And they say the first step on this journey is to educate people, educate members of Congress, citizens, businesses. They also want to get rid of the narrative that Republicans don't care about the climate. They say they're just working on solutions that engage the free market in these clean climate solutions and don't just rely on the government for solutions. Reporting in Washington, D.C., Melina Weisskopf, NTD News.
In a hearing before Congress, Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin denies that the military teaches critical race theory. Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, Mark Milley, then defended teaching it in the military.
With the relevance,
U.S. Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin testifies to a House committee that the U.S. military does not teach or embrace critical race theory, or CRT.
We do not teach critical race theory. We don't embrace critical race theory.
Republican Representative Michael Waltz points out contrary evidence. He says he received a letter from the superintendent of West Point describing the CRT they teach there. He reads part of the letter from the superintendent.
There is one course that has this theory as part of the syllabus. There are 2 lessons on critical race theory. There is a book on critical race theory titled Critical Race Theory and Introduction.
He says he's hearing from concerned soldiers and their family members about CRT being taught in the military.
This came to me from cadets, from families, from soldiers, with their alarm and their concern at how divisive this type of teaching is that is rooted in Marxism, that classifies people along class lines, an entire race of people as oppressor and oppressed.
He says that CRT is destructive to cohesion and morale in the military. Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, Mark Milley, appears to contradict Secretary of Defense Austin when he defended teaching CRT.
And I personally find it offensive that we are accusing the United States military, our general officers, our commissioned, non-commissioned officers, of being, quote, woke or something else because we're studying some theories that are out there.
Representative Matt Gaetz points out that contradicting testimony in a tweet. Our military leadership denied teaching critical race theory right before admitting to teaching critical race theory and then defending critical race theory. Now we must legislatively prohibit CRT to protect our service members from this hate. In another tweet, he points out that the Chinese military isn't teaching their soldiers CRT. Instead, they're focused on defeating our military.
And Amazon donated hundreds of copies of a book on critical race theory to a Virginia high school district and paid the book's co-author to address students and teachers. Amazon reached out to Arlington Public Schools in February, offering to make donations as part of a Black History Month initiative. The school district diversity official requested a minimum of 550 copies of the book stamped Racism, Anti-Racism, and You and its study guide. The school district was also able to secure a virtual talk by one of the book's authors. He was paid $8,000. Emails between the company and school district officials were obtained by watchdog group Parents Defending Education. The group criticized the move and considered it a matter of circumventing parents to indoctrinate students. The FDA says it will now warn about heart inflammation in its fact sheet for Pfizer and Moderna COVID vaccines. The sheet is given to patients before vaccination. This comes after a CDC safety group said in a meeting Wednesday there is a likely association between mRNA COVID-19 vaccines and a heart condition in young adults. This is based on recent data. Here are the details.
According to several members of the CDC's Vaccine Advisory Committee, there's a likely link between mRNA vaccines and heart inflammation in young adults. Among them is Dr. Matthew Oster, a pediatric cardiologist who told the panel that it does appear that the mRNA vaccines may be a trigger for myocarditis. Pediatrics professor Dr. Sarah Long also called the link highly likely. Members of the group noted the heart inflammation condition is rare. According to new CDC data, there are over 1,200 cases of post-vaccination heart inflammation. The data was published ahead of the CDC's advisory committee meeting. Most of the cases were male, and around 40% were people 29 years old or younger. And most of these reports dealt with myocarditis or pericarditis that were experienced after a second dose of a messenger RNA-based vaccine like Pfizer or Moderna's. Myocarditis is the inflammation of the middle layer of the heart muscle. Pericarditis is the inflammation of the sac around the heart. Of all the reports, 323 met CDC's case definitions for myocarditis and/or pericarditis. 309 of the patients were hospitalized. 9 are still in the hospital, with 2 in intensive care. According to the CDC, the case rate based on the reports is higher than expected in young males.
The largest healthcare union in the U.S. comes out against vaccines as a condition of employment for healthcare workers. This as healthcare facilities across the U.S. implement mandatory CCP virus vaccine policies.
George Gresham is president of the largest union of healthcare workers in America. He tells the Gothamist news website that they'll oppose mandatory vaccines for healthcare workers. He says hospitals don't have the right to require employees to get vaccinated. The union represents hundreds of thousands of healthcare workers in the eastern U.S. Gresham made the comments as Houston Methodist Hospital fired or forced out over 150 employees who wouldn't take a COVID-19 vaccine. A lawyer for the fired workers says many of his clients got COVID caring for patients, and now the hospital is thanking them by firing them. New York Presbyterian Hospital announced that all of its employees need to get a CCP virus vaccine. Gresham met with the hospital administrators to discuss the concerns of workers who don't want a vaccine. Gresham says he's taken a vaccine and he encourages his union's members to take it too. He says that ultimately the workers have the right to make their own decision about their health. The New York State Nurses Association also released a statement opposing vaccination as a condition of employment or as a legal mandate. Many hospital systems across the country are implementing mandatory vaccine policies. The New York Presbyterian workers have until September 1st to get their first shot.
8 students from Indiana University filed a lawsuit against the school's COVID-19 vaccine mandate. They say the requirement is unconstitutional and violates Indiana's ban on vaccine passports. Indiana University notified students by email that they will need a COVID-19 vaccine to attend the fall semester. The announcement says if they don't have a vaccine, their class registrations will be canceled, their university IDs will be terminated, and they will be prohibited from on-campus activities. One of the plaintiffs was denied an exemption, even though he tested positive for COVID-19 antibodies. Another was refused a medical exemption, even though her physician provided a letter stating she should not receive any immunization due to her current illness. Faculty and staff who don't get a vaccine face termination of employment. The U.S. Supreme Court on Wednesday ruled in favor of a Pennsylvania teenager. She was banished from her high school's cheerleading squad for a profane social media post.
In an 8-1 ruling, the justices decided that the punishment that Mahanoy area school district officials doled out to the plaintiff, Brandy Levy, for her Snapchat made at a local convenience store, aka not on school grounds, violated her free speech rights. Angry that she was denied a spot in a tryout for the varsity cheerleading team after being a member of the junior varsity squad as a 9th grader, Levy, then 14, was at a convenience store when she posted a photo of her and a friend raising their middle fingers at the camera. As a result, Mahanoy Area High School banished her from the cheerleading team for a year. The case involved the free speech rights of America's roughly 50 million public school students. Many schools and educators have argued that their ability to curb bullying, threats, cheating, and harassment, all frequently occurring online, should not be limited to school grounds. The ACLU, who represented Levy and her parents in the suit, argued that students need protection from censorship and monitoring of their beliefs. While the justices, balancing protecting student expression with allowing schools to address threats and harassment, agreed that Levy's punishment violated her free speech rights, they declined to endorse a lower court decision that found that the First Amendment prohibited public schools from regulating off-campus speech altogether.
Hackers may have released personal information of Tulsa, Oklahoma residents on the dark web. The leak is part of a ransomware attack on the city's computer system last month. Hackers obtained more than 18,000 files that mostly consist of police citations and internal data. The leaked information could include names, birthdays, addresses, and driver license numbers. Officials say anyone who filed a police report, received a citation, or made a payment to the city before May should monitor their financial accounts and change their passwords. City leaders in Tulsa say the attack was similar to the one that shut down the Colonial Pipeline before Memorial Day. The city's mayor says hackers asked for a ransom, but officials refused to pay. And coming up, singer Britney Spears speaks out against the 13-year-old conservatorship that she says gives her father too much control over her life. And a CBS meteorologist fired for going off script. On air, she accuses the company of discrimination. That and more in just a moment. Britney Spears gave an emotional testimony yesterday. She called the 13-year-long conservatorship that has controlled her life stupid and abusive. She says she feels traumatized and wants her life back.
Britney Spears did not hold back at her virtual testimony on Wednesday, where she spoke out about her father's legal control over her life. The pop star told a Los Angeles judge that she wants the controversial 13-year-long conservatorship to end, adding at one point, quote, "I just want my life back." The hearing was closed to the media, and her testimony was available by audio only. In an emotional statement, the 39-year-old said she believed the conservatorship was abusive, adding, quote, "I'm not here to be anyone's slave. I'm traumatized, I'm not happy, I can't sleep, and I'm so angry and I cry every day." Her remarks marked her first public statements about the court-approved legal arrangement, which was first put in place in 2008 when she suffered a mental health breakdown.
What do we want? Free Britney! When do we want it? Now!
Outside the courthouse, fans gathered in solidarity with Spears, saying her career had been stripped from her under the conservatorship.
We are here to free Britney and shine light on the corruption that happens within conservatorships. We will keep showing up until Britney has full autonomy over her body, career, finances, and family. Woo!
Yes! Los Angeles Superior Court Judge Brenda Penny said a formal petition for the conservatorship's termination needed to be submitted to the court before she could take any action. Penny praised Spears for speaking out, saying, quote, "I just want to commend you again for really stepping forward and stepping out to have your thoughts heard." The former teen phenomenon said she wanted to get married again and have another baby, but she said she's been prevented from removing her birth control device and isn't allowed to go to the doctor, quote, "because they don't want me to have children." Last year, Spears began the legal process to remove her father, Jamie Spears, from handling her personal affairs, ranging from her medical care to her finances. Jamie Spears said in a statement read out by his attorney on Wednesday that he was, quote, "sorry to see his daughter suffer and in so much pain." Details of her mental health issues have never been disclosed, but Spears said on Wednesday that doctors had put her on lithium and that she felt drunk.
And a CBS meteorologist went off script during a live shot, accusing the company of discrimination. She was fired not long after that. Here's NTD's Miguel Moreno with more on her story.
CBS Detroit meteorologist April Moss isn't just a meteorologist. She's interviewed big names like Gayle King, but on Father's Day, Moss went off script and accused CBS of discrimination.
With showers moving in around 8 a.m. And speaking of a brand new week, I will be sitting down this week with Project Veritas to discuss the discrimination that CBS is enforcing upon its employees.
She was fired for that. In an interview with Project Veritas, Moss said workers were encouraged to get vaccinated against COVID. And if they wouldn't reveal their vaccination status, they had to test, wear a mask, and socially distance, or in Moss's case, work from home.
This is a human rights issue, and every American and every person on earth has the right to breathe fresh air. And to segregate somebody is completely inhumane. And as an on-air personality, it's very obvious to the viewers, wow, she's never in the studio.
In other words, her medical information was made public, indirectly. In a statement to Project Veritas, CBS Detroit said, any suggestion that she was in any way a victim of discrimination due to her concerns about these policies is completely false. While we respect and support our employees' freedom to have their own opinions, they are not entitled to use our station news broadcasts as a platform for sharing personal views. Moss also points to an alleged bias in the company, like not letting her interview conservative commentator Candace Owens for International Women's Month. She says they turned down the idea, saying Owens was too political, but they let on a doctor working for Michigan's Democratic governor on the show. This is the second reporter to go off script this month, protesting their company's policies. Miguel Moreno, NTD News.
New York City police are asking for help in identifying 3 individuals who brutally robbed and shot 2 people in Upper Manhattan.
The 3 individuals approached the parked BMW sedan and started wrestling with one of the victims who was standing in front of the car. One of the perpetrators approached the driver and held a gun to his head. That's when the driver tried to flee the scene, but was shot in the head while trying to escape. The victim on foot made a run for it, but was shot in the groin by the man who killed the driver. The killer then entered the crashed car from the passenger door to steal a chain, a watch, and a ring from the dead driver's body. After that, the 3 individuals entered a gray 4-door Honda Accord that was driven by a 4th person. They fled the scene northbound. EMS transported the victim, who was shot in the groin, to a hospital. He was in stable condition. Police described the individuals as males with dark-colored clothing.
Six Flags America has shut down a ride after a malfunction over the weekend. Here's a scary scene at the Maryland amusement park. A column from the ride Spinsanity was furiously shaking while riders were buckled into their seats. No one was injured. The park says safety sensors stopped the ride mid-cycle. One witness says the column was shaking so hard the concrete was moving. Spinsanity is undergoing a safety inspection. The thrill ride, which debuted last month, gets up to 70 miles per hour and 150 feet above the ground. And coming up, it's official. California Governor Gavin Newsom will face a recall after this year. Found out who is running and when it will likely take place. A California county holds its first in-person job fair since its reopening from the CCP virus pandemic. Find out who's hiring and for what positions in just a minute.
Hello, I'm Mike Lindell, inventor of MyPillow. Thanks to your support, you've helped make MyPillow become one of the fastest growing companies in America. Over the last 12 years, you've helped MyPillow create thousands of jobs right here in the USA.
When I got MyPillow, I'm asleep almost immediately. I stay asleep at night and I wake up more well-rested in the morning.
That's why I invented MyPillow. My patented fill adjusts to your exact individual needs and helps keep your neck supported and aligned. I'm interrupting this commercial right now. Retailers have canceled MyPillow, and to thank you for your support, I'm going to pass the savings directly on to you. For example, you get my 6-piece towel sets, regular $109.99, now only $44.98, or MyPillow dog beds for as low as $19.99 with your promo code.
For the best night's sleep in the whole wide world, visit MyPillow.com.
Hi folks, Joe Namath here, and if you're on Medicare, this is important. You're now entitled to eliminate co-pays and get dental care, dentures, eyeglasses, prescription coverage, in-home aids, unlimited transportation, and home-delivered meals, all at no additional cost. Plus, your zip code may have coverage with the Give Back benefit that adds money back to your Social Security check every month.
I call to get dental, transportation, meals, and the Give Back benefit.
With this virus situation, I called to get everything I'm entitled to. I couldn't believe I was missing out on so many benefits.
With the uncertainty of the virus, you need to get everything you're entitled to. Millions of people have trusted the Medicare Coverage Helpline. You can too. Call now. It's free.
Call 1-800-764-1930. That's 1-800-764-1930 now.
As California fully reopened last week, voters may be heading to the polls for a special election in the recall against Governor Gavin Newsom. NTD's Brendan Dre with an update on what to expect in the coming months.
The race is on after county officials verified approximately 1.7 million signatures for the campaign to recall Governor Gavin Newsom in the gubernatorial election. The date is set to be announced as early as August or September, and the governor seems ready for that.
We're not coming back as a state. The state is roaring back after a pandemic-induced recession.
Ann Dunsmore, who runs Rescue California, a pro-recall organization, says calling an early election will help Newsom avoid the looming fire season, drought, and rolling blackouts ahead. But it could be risky, citing his back is against the wall with low approval ratings on unemployment, cost of living, and homelessness.
If he loses in August and September, somebody else is signing all these bills or not signing all these bills in October. So that money source for him could start sucking back if people feel he's in trouble. So there's a whole cause and effect in politics that's at work now, and it is the perfect storm.
In a group letter, the California Association of Clerks and Election Officials are urging the lieutenant governor not to schedule a recall election before mid-September. The letter said they could not guarantee enough paper ballots to print. Dunsmore also says Newsom extended his emergency powers after California officially reopened in June. This allows him to award no-bid contracts and mail-in ballots for the special election.
These two things are to his benefit. He can raise money from these people. He's basically being very obvious about pay to play with no repercussions, not even being reported that way, but that's what it is.
Opponents of the recall believe removing Governor Newsom from office does not appear likely, after a poll from the Public Policy Institute found 56% of California voters want him to finish his first term. Newsom claims partisan politics are driving the recall effort. California Secretary of State reports about 50 candidates have filed a statement of intention to run for governor, including Newsom's 2018 Republican opponent John Cox, San Diego Mayor Kevin Faulconer, newcomer Major Williams, and celebrity Caitlyn Jenner. Brandon Dre, NTD News, Los Angeles.
California's power grid operators are calling on residents not to use as much electricity. The West Coast is struggling under a heat wave that includes triple-digit temperatures. The state is trying to stop the strain on the power grid. The grid operator asked residents to avoid charging electric vehicles during peak usage times, turn off unneeded lights, and avoid using large appliances. The operator has also used an alert system to notify residents of what times they should cut down on electricity usage. It comes as the federal government and certain states, including California, have pushed for electric vehicles. But critics say that an abundance of electric vehicles could strain state power grids and utilities. The lead commissioner on transportation at the California Energy Commission says residents should charge their electric vehicles at different times. And a county in Northern California teamed up with an agency for its first in-person hiring event since the pandemic. They can't disclose the name of the company that's looking for new hires, but we do have some details. Let's hear more from NTD's David Lam.
I'm here in Redwood City, where the County of San Mateo is partnering with a staffing agency called Manpower, and they're looking for a couple hundred positions to fill for one of the largest electrical vehicle companies in California. This was the first in-person hiring event that the county partnered with since California reopened. Tom Beatty, the Bay Area marketing manager at Manpower, said about 50 candidates showed up.
Today we were doing a hiring event for one of our large clients located in Fremont that produces electrical vehicles.
Most of the positions were for production associates, along with positions for multiple employers. People were applying right on the spot and even had offers to start in the coming weeks.
So this is our first in-person since the pandemic. Of course, with the pandemic, everything went remote and virtual. So this is our first time kind of trying to get back out in a safe way to interact with job seekers.
Beatty said candidates were a 50-50 mix between being unemployed or currently looking for another job.
So we partner here with the Human Service Agency to try to get people employed. One of our goals is to put people back to work, especially after the pandemic. So I would say it's been a great event today.
Employees told NTD that more in-person events would be held in the coming weeks. David Lam, NTD News, California.
A herd of cows went on the lam in a Southern California neighborhood. They were escaping a local slaughterhouse, understandably. Here's NTD's Aline Ang with more.
Cattle on the move. About 40 cows escaped a local slaughterhouse in Pico Rivera on Tuesday night after a gate was accidentally left open. A few locals captured the herd on camera that went viral on social media.
They went into somebody's yard.
According to the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department, one cow was shot and killed as it charged at a family of 4. The family members were taken to a hospital to treat minor injuries. The local police station tweeted in a tongue-in-cheek manner, asking people to steer clear of Beverly Road and Durfee Avenue. It took more than 2 hours to load the remaining cows into trailers. At around 9:45 p.m., 3 escaped once again, leading to a police pursuit through town. As of Wednesday morning, 1 cow is still missing. Eileen Ang, NTD News, California.
And coming up, House Republicans have a plan to hold the Communist Chinese regime accountable for the CCP virus pandemic. And they say their Democratic colleagues have been slow to act. Hong Kong's largest and loudest pro-democracy newspaper, Apple Daily, apologizes to readers in a farewell letter after being forced to close. Hong Kongers are queuing up to buy its final edition as a show of support. A group of Republican congressmen led by Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy are calling for more action in holding the Chinese Communist Party accountable for how they handled the CCP virus outbreak. NTD's Steve Lance brings us more from the Capitol.
Top House Republicans Wednesday announced a plan to hold the Chinese regime accountable for covering up the CCP virus outbreak. Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy, along with 6 of his Republican colleagues, including Minority Whip Steve Scalise and GOP Chair Elise Stefanik, had some harsh words for the CCP.
The evidence is very clear. China lied and Americans died. We want justice for the American people, transparency for the American people, and accountability for the more than 600,000 Americans who lost their lives from the COVID-19 virus.
Leader McCarthy made it clear that his Democratic colleagues should join the effort in calling out China in the way that they handled the CCP virus outbreak. He said that this is not a Republicans versus Democrats issue.
But we need to first start by declassifying the intelligence for the entire world to know where COVID came from. We need to work with the international community to relocate the 24th Winter Olympic Games. If China would lie to the world where millions died, why would the world reward them with another Olympics?
The congressman held this press conference in part because they said their Democrat colleagues have not been quick enough to act when it comes to holding China accountable, but said they were hopeful Democrats would join the effort with more tenacity.
I have talked to several of my colleagues, rank and file members, and there are Democrats that want to get to the bottom of it. What we have to do is make it a priority for the committee.
To have an official congressional hearing, the majority party makes the final decision. House Republicans are calling on Speaker Nancy Pelosi and the Democrats to make this a priority. They say this is owed to the hundreds of millions of Americans who have been impacted by the CCP virus. Steve Lance, NTD News, Washington, D.C.
Peter Daszak is the president of EcoHealth Alliance. He was recused from a UN-backed commission to investigate the origins of the CCP virus.
Amid reports of a conflict of interest, Peter Daszak, president of EcoHealth Alliance, a New York City-based nonprofit, has left the UN-backed commission sent to China to investigate the origins of the CCP virus. The Lancet COVID-19 Commission updated its profile of Daszak to read, "Recused from commission work on the origins of the pandemic." Back in February of 2020, Daszak organized a group of 27 scientists, including himself, to co-sign and publish a statement on The Lancet, a well-respected British medical journal. The statement criticized lab leak theories as conspiracies and unscientific. It even praised China's early response to the outbreak. The signatories wrote, "We declare no competing interests." However, it was later revealed that Daszak has links to the Wuhan Institute of Virology, or WIV. Internal NIH emails obtained by Judicial Watch shows that EcoHealth Alliance has funded coronavirus research in the WIV for years. On December 9, 2019, before the outbreak was generally known, Daszak gave an interview about the research done at WIV. He said, "We have now found, after 6 or 7 years of doing this, over 100 new SARS-related coronaviruses, very close to SARS. Some of them can cause SARS disease in humanized mice models and are untreatable with therapeutic monoclonals, and you can't vaccinate against them with a vaccine." On Monday, The Lancet issued a statement saying it invited all 27 signatories to reevaluate their competing interests. Daszak later posted a disclosure attached to the February 2020 letter stating that EcoHealth's work in China was funded by the National Institutes of Health and the U.S. Agency for International Development. This comes as a new report by the National Pulse alleges that Google also funded Daszak and the EcoHealth Alliance.
Hong Kong pro-democracy newspaper Apple Daily announced its closure on Thursday after printing its last publication. That comes after an expanded national security investigation into the newspaper.
Hong Kongers are lining up in the rain on Thursday to buy the final issue of Apple Daily. The pro-democracy newspaper is being forced to close. Hong Kong authorities froze its assets and arrested top editors under the city's Beijing-imposed national security law. Hundreds of supporters gathered outside the newsroom on Wednesday night, holding up their smartphones in lieu of lighters to show support.
I would like to thank supporters outside. 2 points. I would like to thank my colleagues and supporters outside.
Journalists on the balcony responded with their own phone lights. One of the newspaper's reporters, May, went outside to distribute free copies to supporters. She was in tears.
I actually don't want to leave them, and I also don't want to say farewell to my readers. We have no choice but to say goodbye for the time being. I hope that the people of Hong Kong will fight on, and stay safe is the priority.
The crowd burst into applause once the final edition was sent to press. The last front page features a photograph of staff waving to supporters, with the headline, "Hong Kongers bid a painful farewell in the rain." The flagship tabloid has long been a provocative critic of China's Communist Party leadership. Its hard-hitting political news and pro-democracy angle made it a thorn in the side for Beijing. Its demise leaves only a handful of independent media outlets still operating in the city.
After today, there is no press freedom in Hong Kong. When tonight's newspaper edition has become our final edition, I cannot see any future in Hong Kong. I feel very disappointed and angry today. I don't understand why our limited group, company, and the newspapers were forced to stop operating under such circumstances.
Apple Daily was founded in 1995 by self-made tycoon Jimmy Lai. He was arrested and jailed last year for attending pro-democracy rallies.
Up next, sustainable building blocks made from artificial resin are challenging the traditional construction industry. They can be taken apart and rebuilt elsewhere into a new design, offering an alternative to standard building bricks. And a German aircraft company successfully tests its flying taxi in France. They will be providing air taxi services to Paris in time for the 2024 Olympic Games. That and more on NTD News.
When the game's over and it's time to go home, sometimes your car has other plans. That's why I drive with CarShield. As expensive as car repairs can be, I wanted the best defense around. And with CarShield's administrators, they make sure that you don't get stuck with expensive car repairs like this. Did I forget to mention that with CarShield's network, I also get 24/7 roadside assistance, towing, and rental car reimbursement included. That's peace of mind every driver needs.
I saved close to $9,000.
If it wasn't for CarShield, I wouldn't have my car.
I gotta tell you, it's quite a relief not to worry about expensive car breakdowns anymore. And with CarShield's administrators, you can choose your favorite mechanic or dealer to do the work. Plus, it's easier than ever to get America's favorite car protection. There's no long-term contracts, and coverage is affordable for every wallet size.
If I didn't have CarShield, I would have been out of pocket $7,000. As a parent of 3, I couldn't have that.
I trust CarShield administrators because they paid my claim.
Talk about MVP protection for less than the cost of a ball game. Take it from me, the boomer. Nobody wants to go through the headache of an expensive car breakdown on their own.
If you're driving without a warranty, you have to call CarShield.
Yeah, you do.
So do yourself and your car a favor. Call CarShield. They're your best line of defense against expensive breakdowns.
CarShield administrators paid almost $4,000 for my repairs.
CarShield is wonderful. They saved me $1,300.
With CarShield, I saved $4,100 on my first repair.
Over 1 million happy drivers couldn't be wrong. Call CarShield now.
Protect yourself now against expensive auto repair bills. Call CarShield for a free and instant protection plan quote. Once your car breaks down, it's too late. Call 1-800-862-2990. That's 1-800-862-2990. 1-800-862-2990.
Antivirus software pioneer John McAfee was found dead in a Spanish jail cell Tuesday, only hours after a court ruling to extradite him back to the U.S. It's believed he committed suicide while in prison. McAfee founded the namesake antivirus and computer security service. He was indicted on tax evasion charges by the U.S. Department of Justice. The department alleges he and a business partner participated in a scheme that earned more than $13 million by falsely promoting cryptocurrency to unwitting investors. McAfee was 75 years old. And sustainable development is revolutionizing the construction world. German startup Polycare is introducing its new eco-blocks, providing an environmentally friendly alternative to traditional building materials.
Sustainable, recyclable, and mobile. Polyblocks make real houses as easy to disassemble as children's building blocks. According to the German company Polycare, their new material could be a game changer for the construction industry.
The building blocks are not just easy to carry by hand. They also don't require motor or glue. They're simply plugged together before you insert threaded rods into the blocks, which are held together with ring anchors. That's why the construction is extremely simple.
Polymer concrete is the main component of Polycare's bricks. They're made of 90% filler from naturally occurring sands and 10% binder that replace conventional cement in the concrete. This allows for the use of local raw materials such as desert sand.
We need to always think locally. When we enter a market like Namibia or South Africa, we always find different types of sand and we need to understand them, the composition, all the way to the right balance for the recipe.
The company has already constructed around 100 homes in Namibia. According to media reports, a second Polycare production site opened in the summer of 2019. The Polycare system is more suitable for drier regions. That's because wetness and humidity require a higher expenditure to keep the raw materials dry. The company's COO says their idea was first kicked into action in 2010.
The impetus came following the catastrophe in Haiti, when our founders thought about how we could radically change the construction process and enable people to build homes themselves with local products.
Polycare will profit from providing building block factories and licensing fees, with the possibility of selling building kits in the future.
Electric-powered flight may soon be coming to a city near you. On Monday, German aircraft manufacturer Volocopter showcased its flying taxi during a Paris test flight. Let's take a look.
Shaped like a tiny helicopter, a special kind of air transportation is taking off in France. On Monday, German aircraft company Volocopter held a 3-minute test flight for its flying taxi, taking off from Le Bourget Airport near Paris. The company aims to operate the electric vehicles in the city for the 2024 Olympic Games.
We do not sell Volocities to individual persons. In the city of the future, these will be shared assets that are professionally operated as a fleet. So you as a customer can then call a Volocity to come and pick you up when you need it, and you only pay for the flight.
The air taxi cruises at speeds up to 18 miles per hour, reaching altitudes of around 100 feet along the airfield. The vehicle also comes with a luggage compartment and has a 2-person capacity on board. Volocopter's CEO says as volumes increase, they'll be able to offer these flights for the same cost as a standard taxi ride. While at first they'll operate with help from pilots, the company's flying taxi service is expected to go fully automated in the future.
With respect to regulation, initially we will have a fully certified, fully licensed helicopter pilot, just to fit into existing regulation. But we believe over time it can be much simpler to obtain such an operating license for a Volocopter. And of course, in the last instance, we want to take a pilot requirement out, and we want these vehicles to fly fully automated.
Volocopter sees potential for a huge urban mobility market. The company estimates that by 2035, its air taxis will serve a market with around $300 billion in opportunity.
More than 300 sea lions have taken over the beaches of a town in central Chile. Local authorities think it's because they're trying to escape killer whales or heavy winds lashing the region. No major incidents have happened so far in the town of Tome as a result of the sea lion's arrival. The seaside town is located about 310 miles south of Chile's capital city. Authorities have asked people to not feed or approach the mammals. Sea lions in Chile are protected by a 10-year ban on removing them from their natural habitat. There are around 138,000 sea lions in Chile. That's according to a 2019 sea lion census made by a local university. The biggest population are in the south of the country. And on this segment of Strong Mind and Body, we look at 9 easy ways to avoid genetically modified foods.
Welcome to Strong Mind and Body. I'm Gina Marie. Genetically modified foods are in our food supply, but the issue is we can't be sure exactly where. That's because here in the US there are no labeling requirements for GMOs. However, knowing how to avoid GMOs can happen. In fact, there are some very easy steps you can take. Know the common culprits. corn, soy, canola, sugar beets, cottonseed oil, conventional crookneck squash, zucchini and Hawaiian papayas. These are among the most common genetically modified foods. When it comes to the first two ingredients on this list, corn and soy, derivatives of these ingredients can take on many names and appear in hundreds of foods. Read labels, not just some of the time. Not just on new items, but every time. Brands change and add ingredients, and if you weren't clear before on GMO culprits, it's worth revisiting every label. Buy 100% organic. Believe it or not, some products can bear the USDA organic seal and not be fully organic. The main ingredients may be truly organic, but flavors, preservatives, and other minor ingredients may not be. Look for non-GMO project verified foods. That little logo means the product has been third-party verified to be GMO free. Look for alcohol and vinegar. Love vanilla extract or a store-bought salad dressing? Guess what? Yep, they likely contain alcohol and vinegar made from GMO corn. Alcohol is a common ingredient in personal care products, cleaning products, and herbal tinctures as well, so look for organic or make your own. Invest in organic cotton products. Whether it's a Q-tip, a towel, or your favorite pair of socks, if it's not made from organic cotton, it's most likely genetically modified. Organic cotton items can be more expensive, but they are far better for your health and much healthier for the planet. Conventional cotton uses more insecticides than any other crop. Cook more. GMOs lurk in processed foods. While not all processed foods contain GMOs, one very simple way to avoid them is to cook more, from scratch, with whole foods. Not only do you have more control over the health of the ingredients, but you also have the benefit of being more directly involved in your food. Processed foods are also hotbed for loads of other unhealthy ingredients like excessive sodium, sugar, artificial colors, flavors, and sweeteners. Eat fewer animal products. While genetically modified animals are not yet in our food supply, GMO fish might be soon though. Conventionally raised animals are routinely fed diets high in genetically modified alfalfa, corn, and soy. Either skip the meat, eggs, and dairy, or make sure you purchase yours from a certified organic source.
And that's it for now. You can catch us again tonight at 6:30 Eastern. I'm Evelyn Lee.
We have a new channel. Subscribe to us on YouTube at NTD News. Get the highlights of our news broadcast and the most important headlines that we curate especially for you.
Don't let YouTube decide what information you get. That's your choice. YouTube is deleting our videos and cuts you off from a source of honest reporting. Make sure you don't lose access to NTD's news content, and take a quick moment to subscribe to our newsletter so no matter what happens here, you'll keep your access to a trustworthy news source.